Hey, Skytown. The Sky are off to an 0-4 start. Not everything's bad, though. We're going to talk about it. Is it time to hit the panic button? We're going to discuss that and more next. CHGO Sky. We appreciate you joining us while a game is happening. We know that W fans love to watch every game around the league, even if it's not the Sky, so thank you for being here with us today. We're going to dive into everything going on with the Chicago Sky through 4 games this season. First of all, welcome in my co-host, Stephen Garner. What's going on?
I'm doing great. Katy, how you doing?
I'm doing good. We have some breaking news right as we are coming on the air. The Sky just announced that they're going to retire Candace Parker's number 3 jersey on August 25th, going into the rafters at Wintrust. I am trying to tweet this out literally as we were talking because it came out just as we were coming on the air. This is awesome. Steven, how do you feel about this?
It's very appropriate. I was wondering when it would happen. I hope it's accompanied by more than just a retired jersey, but this is a great step in the right direction for sure. Homegrown kid, being able to come back home and get a championship against all the odds as the lowest seed in that playoffs. And obviously each remarkable bookmark type of moment that came en route to another WNBA championship in her illustrious career. What more can you say? Much deserved, much earned, and it couldn't happen at a better time.
Yeah, absolutely. Just an amazing career for Candace. Candace for me was such an inspiration, is a big part of the reason that I got into basketball in general, especially women's basketball. I will never, ever forget seeing them win that championship, watching her run over to her daughter, running through the security people to get to her, and just such an amazing moment. And I'm so happy that they're going to be retiring her jersey. That's going to be really cool to see. And I'm going to do everything I can to be in the building for that one because that is huge. So I'm glad that we got that news before we came on the air so that we could break that to all of you lovely people that are watching with us.
For sure.
Let's switch over to, sorry, go ahead.
Is she your GOAT?
She is, my GOAT. Absolutely. 1000%. Yeah. She is my GOAT of women's basketball. Is she yours?
1000%. And that, it transcends off the court, but it's the on the court that starts it all. 1000%.
Yeah, I agree. Candace is bigger than her game on the court, and that's one of the things that I think makes a GOAT a GOAT. Obviously, her being a hometown kid, or home state kid, I guess, because she's from Naperville, but still that contributes to it. Let's switch gears. Let's get into what's going on in today's Chicago Sky land. 0-4 start, tying the worst start to a season in franchise history. That was in 2010. They went on to finish the season 14-20. I posed this question in the title on the thumbnail. Steven, I'm going to ask you, is it time for the Sky to hit the panic button?
No, not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. 4 games into a historic 44-game season that they're embarking on now, there's plenty of time to kind of right your wrongs as long as you're learning while the losses are coming. And if there's anything that Tyler Marsh has in his back pocket, it's that when adversity has hit in his coaching experience, he's had a response and has been a part of a group that continued to respond against adversity, whether the odds were stacked in their favor and they were met with resistance, or the odds were stacked against them and they had to meet that resistance with their own. He's always found ways to kind of overcome these things, and I do think that it might be taking a little bit longer than maybe some people anticipated or expected. I would be included with that group. It's going to happen, and I think that they have to be allowed the grace to take the lumps that they need to take that are going to present them with the lessons that they need to learn and apply going forward, so that when the winning does come, it's in a more sustained manner rather than it being two game win streak here, And then that's coupled with a 4-game losing streak right after that. So these are the ebbs and flows, especially when you have so much newness with the franchise. And as much newness as almost any other team in the W, we have to kind of be given some grace with that. That's not to absolve them of the play that's left a lot more to be desired, but these lumps in the process had to be kind of anticipated in some capacity.
Yeah, I like that you said as long as you're making progress, like as long as you're moving forward. And I think that's something that we can definitely say that the Sky are doing. Like you can see definite improvements as they're moving forward. But I think we have a really cool opportunity today because I think you and I normally agree on most things. And today we don't. We like I'll peel the curtain back. Like Steven and I very much do not agree on this topic. I am slamming the panic button. Steven is the level-headed, he's saying it's not time to panic. It's early in the season. And I am the complete opposite. So, we're kind of giving you guys like the angel and the devil on your shoulder here. I am in panic mode. I have a lot of reasons for that. I will preface it by saying like, we have seen so much growth through 4 games, and that's what you want out of a young team, especially with a first-time head coach. Like that is what you need to see and what you want to see, and we're seeing it, and I'm really glad that we are. However, for me, a lot of the issues that we are seeing are so correctable that it's very frustrating watching them not get corrected. And I want to dive into a lot of specific things here. I think let's start with shooting. So issues finishing in the paint. One of the things that's happening is the Sky are being blocked about 7 times a game. I remember after the Fever game, I sat on this show and I said, hey, they're not going to get blocked 10 times every game. They're not getting blocked 10 times, but they are being blocked 7. That's a lot. That's the most in the league. Like, that's a lot of times to get rejected, especially when it's happening primarily at the rim. And also, like, we're just seeing so many misses in the paint. There were a lot of games that they were struggling with points in the paint. They've corrected that a little bit. They outscored the Mercury in the paint as well as the Sparks, but still, like, points in the paint is an issue and finishing in the paint is an issue. So for me, this is a primary reason that I am panicking. And then, 3-point shooting as well. But Steven, I'm curious what you're seeing in the paint. Is it really just that they are being guarded that well in the post?
Well, yeah, through these first handful of games, we've seen teams err on crowding up the paint as much as they possibly can. In a more technical sense, loading up the blocks where players typically post up at. Naturally, Angel Reese and Kamilla Cardoso spending a majority of their time there, and then the elbows as well. So anytime one of them gets a post touch, that's met with help, if not an outright double team, that's shrinking the floor on them. And if they are able to get up shots, everybody from the opposing team understands that they have to get in there and just show hands and show bodies to make them feel presence, if not literally feeling it with activity contesting shots at the rim. So that's certainly something to kind of have a flag raised about, just to kind of keep a track of going forward. I do agree with that for sure. But I think that once they get to hitting shots in the ways in which players have shown that they hit shots at over the course of their careers prior to this season, that help will not be as impactful because there will be a price to pay. And if you pay that price too many times, coupled with them getting what they want in the paint, now that's too much to kind of overcome if you're talking about going up against the Sky when they're playing to their best.
Yeah. I think loading up the paint is definitely something that we've seen against them. Like the scouting report is accurate and the scouting report is being read. And I think that's something that teams didn't really know what to expect out of the Sky in the post last season. And this season, they know exactly what they're getting into with Angel and Kamilla being down in the paint there. One of the other things,
say too, with the shots at the rim, if you take away, let's say, half of the putback attempts after Angel grabs her own offensive rebounds, and rather than trying to go back up with those immediately, you use that extra 14 seconds to get maybe higher shot quality. Maybe it comes back to Angel in the paint, and instead of having an offensive rebound where there's 4 bodies near the restricted area, it's more of a one-on-one, and she's able to showcase her footwork. And that's the context of finishing at the rim where she hasn't had as much issues. It's more so when there's 3 to 4 people, if not more, and there's a party in the restricted area, yet alone the low paint. That's where a lot of the shots being blocked kind of came from. So I imagine they kind of find a way to balance her going up with the offensive rebounds that she does get versus kicking it back out. And now they can get into a quick pick and roll, respace, get into a dribble handoff, just get into a lot of different things that might produce a more efficient and higher quality type of shot on goal to get the most out of those extra possessions that they do garner.
Do you think that's just kind of growing pains of young team, young player, and that's why we're seeing her, just kind of immediately go back up even when she's being swarmed by like 3 defenders?
Yeah, I mean, it's some of the growing pains part, but I think even more than that, the growing pains part maybe be 30% of that. The other 70 is with Angel. If that's one of her strengths in terms of getting offensive rebounds and then second chance points as an individual, you don't want to take maybe one of her more dominant offensive skills from her shot profile, because then that leads to kind of overthinking on the court, and that's just too much. But I think that they can better balance it and show her on film where this offensive rebound you got was sensational. Maybe if not, no different than great mid-range shooters that can also shoot threes. Maybe if you balance the midi and the three, and for Angel, you balance the going up off of the offensive rebounds that you get with kicking those out and then flowing into like an immediate pick and roll with Courtney Vandersloot or Ariel Atkins, and kind of showing her the efficiency in terms of the shots on goal that they get from those. If it's better balanced, I think there's multiple avenues to success within that. And that just takes a slight tweaking. It doesn't need to be drastic, but I think it's something that they could greatly benefit from if they're more intentional with the shots that they get from those offensive rebounds, because one of the highest quality shots in all of basketball is transition play. That's the most efficient in terms of points per possession. Second to that is 3-point opportunities that come from offensive rebounds. Now, the Sky haven't obviously been taking the 3-point shots to a high clip, but if we're talking about the team shot profile, which we'll get to 3-point shooting shortly, and you find pockets where they can get those shots but also generate them more efficiently, Angel's skill, her highest skill on offense, aligns directly with getting more shots on goal at a high clip from that 3-point line.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I'm glad you brought up, like the film room. I think that's something that I'm hoping that they're showing her, and if not, maybe that's something that we need to work on, because we have seen Angel really just kind of go right back up when she gets that rebound. We know how good of a rebounder she is. We don't need to rehash that. I would like to see her kick that out a little bit more, and even when she is doing that, it seems like a lot of the shots aren't falling, and I'd love to get into what we're seeing from them with shooting as well. So 3-point shooting has been an issue, both in volume and percentage. Couple stats here: second fewest 3-pointers made and second lowest 3-point percentage. Again, this is me being an alarmist, throwing out these stats at you. But I want to listen in before we really dive into this on Tyler Marsh. This is pregame, but this is him talking about just the Sky shooting and what he's seeing from them on the offensive end.
You're always hopeful that you can make some shots, but here and there, it always helps everything. But I think that you have to have a big picture outlook as well. And so as long as we are generating the types of looks, the types of shots that we want throughout our offense, then we continue to have the confidence that those shots will fall eventually. And so we know we got capable shooters in our lineup. It's just a matter of those shots falling.
So Tyler Marsh kind of saying like some unlucky shots not really falling down. I think some of the defense that they're seeing is contributing to it as well. But Steven, I'm curious what you're seeing with, just the shots not falling.
Yeah, so when I asked him that question, I asked it with the frame of mind of how can they find ways to get Ariel Atkins and Kia Nurse going? And I think some of the answer to the question I asked lies in those two players alone, seeking out those shots and continuing to take them. Kia Nurse starting off yesterday's game 0 for 2, 0 for 3, and then knocks down multiple in a row. I think she finishes with 3 or 4 3-pointers made. It's being able to get to the makes through the misses. And I think that there's been some hesitation with the shots that they've been able to generate because it's coming after a handful of misses, and the offensive flow just hasn't been where these shots are coming with a rhythm and kind of predictable, organic type of flow to them. And similarly, but even more so than with Kia is with Ariel, and that's her finding those pockets because she's more of a self-creator than Kia is, and being able to take those shots comfortably and get to those spots that she knows that she can be elite at from in terms of self-created pull-up 3-point shooting opportunities and just general shots opportunities. So I think it's a lot with that part, the self-creation part and seeking out those shots and them just kind of trying to find a rhythm for the team scoring based off of that. And to that point, I think you even tweeted about it, but I did as well yesterday. The tone that was set on the offensive end was because Ariel Atkins went out and she was seeking her own shots. Regardless of what the matchups were, whether it was pick and roll, isolation, transition, she was going to find her own shots. And she was stubborn in that way with her shot profile. And that's stubborn in a complimentary way because she knew that their team needed offense. They weren't getting it for the last handful of games, largely because she wasn't taking a certain number of shots. She got to that point, and you saw the way that the game shifted. It was in favor for them in the first half of last night's game.
I'm glad you brought up Ariel because that's exactly where I was going next. She was so good last night. Just really an offensive kind of explosion from her. That is the Ariel Atkins that we saw in Washington and that we were hoping we were going to get here in Chicago. And kind of to your point about Kia Nurse, like her shots eventually falling towards the end of the game, Kia Nurse has been very quiet in offense up until yesterday. She did hit a couple in the game against the Sparks. She hasn't been absent. It's just been a little bit more quiet. So for me, when I'm seeing Kia's shots start to fall on the same night that Ariel's being much more aggressive, that to me is kind of saying that Ariel Atkins might be the key to unlocking the offense. Her aggressiveness really is allowing for those kickouts to Kia, is allowing for, just the floor spacing to be so much better, and is also allowing Courtney Vandersloot to facilitate, which is what she's best at. Don't get me wrong, Courtney can absolutely, be aggressive when she needs to, but when Ariel can take that role, it seems like the Sky's offense is working so much better.
Yeah, 100%. And it's because when Ariel has the rock, there's a different type of pressure. She's not the same type of guard that Courtney Vandersloot is. When most people, when they're defending Courtney Vandersloot, they're trying to stop her from getting the passing angles and the playmaking part of her game off. Because then if she gets that in addition to her scoring, she's almost impossible to stop. And we've seen her, be at her best in the 2021 finals, which we talked about to start the show. But with Kia in particular, if you can have her, which we talked about in our last episode as well as in preseason, initiate a little bit more. We've seen her spend time initiating the offense. If she's putting pressure on the defense from the onset of a possession, just the psyche of a defense when she has it and the abilities for her to score is going to hit differently, and it's going to force the defense to react in a way that's different from Courtney Vandersloot at this moment in Sloot's career. And I think that's something that can be better baked into their process. How many possessions is Ariel initiating offense? And what is the possession volume? How is that relative to her success? We saw her initiating a bit last night as well. And we saw her immediately starting a possession. They get the defense in rotation. And now we're able to start seeing Kia Nurse spring open for wide open threes. Courtney Vandersloot is able to play off the ball before getting it and then being able to get into her primary actions. And also you get the post touches for Kamilla Cardoso and Angel Reese after that as well. I think there's another layer to their offense when Ariel is initiating, and it's because of the accountability for her scoring prowess that sets the tone for that in particular. Mind you, this is a WNBA champion and gold medalist Ariel Atkins we're speaking to. These capabilities that she has to sustain the level that she played at yesterday, the tough shot making, just casual 1-foot pull-ups that are contested and they barely touch the net as they go through the rim, she's more than capable of sustaining at this level.
She absolutely looked last night like she earned all of those accolades that she has earned in her career. Before we continue to dive into this, I do want to mention that today's show is presented by Sunnyside. Visit sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Enter promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside, Cannabis Dispensary, bright buys every day, only for 21 plus or Illinois Med Card holders. So off the back of that, kind of Ariel and how she's working with that starting lineup, I do have to ask, we're 4 games in, would you consider changing the starting lineup at this point? Or do you feel like this is the starting group that the Sky should keep rocking with?
No need for change, and which is also why I'm not panicking, because I see opportunity for them to better feature the pieces within their starting unit to get the most out of that that group in particular, if they set better tones for games, they're gonna have better game process throughout. Instead of playing from double-digit deficits, they'll be at closer to even, if not having a lead like they did in yesterday's game. And I think it starts with the featuring of your best players. I know getting post touches and all of that is getting a lot of attention and discourse. And obviously, I agree that they can be better with that. And the individual players, being Angel and Kamilla, can be better with what they do with those touches when they get them. But I think that it starts from the outside in as far as what can help shift things for them. Because if Ariel is scoring and she's getting the type of attention that she can, that's going to set the table for advantages that make the jobs of finishing in the paint significantly easier for Angel Reese and Kamilla Cardoso. And for me with Ariel Atkins, I want to shout out Nikias Duncan. But he touched on a point that I touched on when they made the trade for Ariel Atkins and why I felt like it made sense. Ariel was downright prolific and straight up elite off of dribble handoffs and in pick and roll last season. And the usage in tandem with the efficiency and points per possession were what really separated her and put her in a position to be a primary creator last season and just really be an all-star level, all WNBA level player in terms of talent last season to career high levels in multiple respects. And you copy and paste that to the Sky context this season, and we haven't seen the volume of efficiency and usage in particular kind of replicate what she saw with Washington last season. Now, obviously, a ton more talent with the Sky team. That's not going to demand for her to have the same usage that she did with the Mystics last season, but you want to get as much out of that version of Ariel with this Sky team to, for one, make it make sense with having that pick traded for Ariel, but also to get the most out of the team and the most out of her talent as an individual. And I think if they do that, that's going to make the entire starting group better. It's going to make each of the other 4 individuals in that group with her better. And it's naturally going to also put her in that stratosphere of players to where I said, and you also said, she would be an all-star this season. That's the level they need her at.
Yeah, I stand by that. I really think Ariel Atkins could be an all-star this season. Like a slow start to the season is not going to change my mind on that. And I don't think team success is a huge part of her, playing at an all-star level. It's interesting that you kind of see the way to solve these problems is like outside in, because I actually feel opposite, which is kind of our theme for the day. For me, I'm concerned about how Kamilla Cardoso is fitting in this starting lineup, which is why I posed the question about changing the starting lineup, because we should be seeing a lot more from Kamilla than we are, in my opinion. Last night, very quiet first 3 quarters. She did have a great fourth quarter, 10 points. Those 10 points came when every other starter had 2. So that's, for me, raising questions about her fit in that starting lineup, her fit alongside Ariel Atkins, her fit alongside, I'm going to say it, Angel. I am, concerned about that long-term fit, concerned about whether or not they both have the space to operate. I think when we've seen Angel Reese and Elizabeth Williams together on the court, when they've staggered those lineups, they've both looked really, really strong. Angel has looked a lot stronger next to Elizabeth Williams, in my opinion, and Kamilla has looked really strong with that bench unit. So I don't know. I'm wondering, maybe to start the season, to kind of get Kamilla rolling, maybe it's a good idea for us to switch Kamilla to the bench, give her some time to, figure out how to work with that unit, and I don't know, see what happens, because I'm seeing a very, very strong Angel Reese next to Elizabeth Williams and a not so strong Angel Reese next to Kamilla Cardoso and a not so strong Kamilla Cardoso next to Angel Reese, where she looks much better with the bench unit.
So question for that one. The lineups that are around Angel when she's with Elizabeth Williams are different from the lineups that are around Angel when she's with Kamilla, right?
For sure. Yeah.
And one of the best guard so far this season, if we're looking at it comprehensively for the Sky, has been Rachel Bannum, right?
Yes.
So that's some of what it is. There's a different type of pressure that's being put on defenses because of, in those lineups, when it's Angel with reserve players. We talk about Rebecca Allen. We haven't gotten to her yet. she's been efficient and effective with the sets that they've been using for her to get those shots from the right wing and knocking down 3-point shots, but also putting the ball on the deck. There's been a different rhythm and flow to their second units because of the guard play that they've got from those second units. And that gets to the template that I'm speaking to with the starting units, where if you have a better synergy, if you have a better flow, you have a better usage in particular of Ariel Atkins in tandem with Courtney Vandersloot, that's going to lead to easier opportunities. And I think there's a lot of easier opportunities being had with those second units because of the dynamic in which the players like Rachel Banham and Rebecca Allen are playing with when they're on the court with players like Elizabeth Williams and Angel Reese. So I think that's more of the difference than those two players not being able to coincide on the court at the same time. That's just what I'm seeing from my lens, and that's kind of what I'm expecting to kind of play out more going forward.
I definitely hear you. I don't disagree with you. I think the players that are around them definitely play a role in it. I don't have the data to tell you, which which players around them are impacting them the most. But I think that there's a lot of pressure on Angel to kind of facilitate for Kamilla when they're together on the court. And I don't see that pressure for her with Elizabeth Williams, which for me is, kind of telling me that maybe Kamilla needs to shift to that bench role. I'm not saying she's a bench player. I'm not saying she needs to be on the bench forever. I think Kamilla Cardoso can be a really, really strong player in the W, a starter in the W. But what we're seeing from her right now at the start of the season is concerning. And I think as long as she looks better with that bench unit, I think it's just worth a shot. And I think that for whatever reason, Angel looks stronger next to Elizabeth Williams. Maybe it's a spacing issue. Maybe it's just that Angel has kind of been shifted a little bit closer to the perimeter this season. It's something that Tyler Marsh has been trying. And maybe that, that pressure is gone when Elizabeth Williams is in there. I'm really not sure what the issue is because I'm not in practice. I don't have the inside scoop on what that issue is, but to the eye test, those two to me are not coinciding super well together. And I think it's worth a shot. That's, again, it's opposite day for us. That's where I'm at. It's worth a shot.
I'll say though, I do feel like they can be better. I think naturally they play better when the guard play improves in the lineups that they're used together with, first and foremost. But I also say that's the beauty of having Elizabeth Williams though. And that's the fact that you can stagger Angel and Kamilla over the course of the middle of games and have them start and close games together. They don't have to spend time on the court all 34, 33, 32, 30 minutes that they're playing are on the court together. I think that's the beauty of it. When you can have one on the court and then the other is resting and you have someone that can complement that player maybe in a way that makes a little bit more sense at times depending on the lineups that you're using. But at the foundation of the Chicago Sky, they're going to be, when they're playing at their best, they're going to be at their best when those two players are on the court together. You don't want to take away those reps or mess up the synergy that they've been establishing and the impact that can have on the boards in particular. So for those reasons, I don't think that Kamilla needs to be shifted from the starting lineup at all. I just think they need to get better usage out of the pieces that are in that starting lineup. And then I think the impact we expected to see will surface more and more as that kind of sustains more than anything else.
It'll definitely be interesting to see. We've kind of seen Tyler Marsh play with the lineup stacking, bringing Elizabeth in a little bit earlier, and I'm curious to see if he continues to do that. Kita in the chat here is making a really good point that it could kill Kamilla's confidence if they bench her. It's a really good point. I mean, that's just something that Tyler Marsh would have to work on if he does decide to do that. But it doesn't seem like he's going to. He seems very confident in his starting lineup, in everything that he's saying in pregame and postgame press conferences.
Yep.
One other thing I wanted to mention in that kind of, starting lineup bench debate, the bench outscored the starters in those first two games. And, maybe that's a synergy issue. Maybe that's, a tired legs issue since unfortunately Courtney Vandersloot has had to play so many more minutes in the last two games with Haley Van Lith on the bench with an ankle injury. But I think it's just important to mention that the bench looked really, really strong in those first two games. And the starters could have used a little bit of that scoring in those first two games.
For sure. One other thing that I'll kind of mention as it's coming up with us talking about the offense leaving more to be desired, they've seen a significant amount of time, obviously relative to it being a very, very early portion of the season so far, but teams have been comfortable playing zone against them. And I don't think that's something that was anticipated coming into the season. And I think that speaks to the larger point that I've been kind of getting at, which is if their guard play gets to a certain level, teams can't be as comfortable playing zone defense against them. And teams also won't be as comfortable switching and things like that against them. If their guard play gets to the level that I have seen the individuals play to, and I think that even in the present 2025 season, they can still get to in terms of certain levels. They get to that point, that's going to shift the ways that defense have to respect them. That's going to naturally lend itself to Angel and Kamilla getting more clean touches in the post. And that's going to lead to the general ecosystem that they're all operating in being a ton more efficient and effective on a per possession basis. And if they're scoring more efficiently and effectively, that's naturally going to lead to the defense being set more, which is going to allow for them to be a ton more successful on that end of the court as well.
Yeah, the efficiency has been an issue definitely in the early part of the season. There's one more thing that I want to make sure we get to before we run out of time, and that's a really strong question that you asked Tyler Marsh yesterday since you were at the game, and just on the player usage for Angel Reese, and then that also leads into a question about Alyssa Thomas. So let's start with the first one here, positionless basketball, excuse me. So let's get into that question that you asked Tyler Marsh yesterday.
So I'm curious, what are your thoughts about with the evolution of players' usage and the skill, players like Alyssa Thomas being able to initiate pick and rolls in a way that kind of stresses the defense differently?
Yeah, I think that's where we're seeing the league going and continuing to go into somewhat of a positionless style for most, but more so than that, just an open style of basketball that can really highlight the player's offensive versatility and abilities. And it doesn't just end with AT, it goes all across the league, but she's certainly a force with somebody her size and speed and strength, and someone who can bring the ball up the floor and play in a couple of different areas of the floor. And so she's a handful. And so, but it's a testament to where this league is currently and where it is going to be moving forward.
So that ties perfectly into another question about Angel Reese and her similarities to Alyssa Thomas. Let's listen to that, and then Steven will get your thoughts.
Yeah, we hope so. I think that there's a lot of similarities there from a young Angel to where AT is. I mean, she's someone who's certified in this league and a bona fide all-star and a top player in this league. And so, but in terms of just style of play, yeah, I think she's someone that that Angel can continue to emulate and embody and look up to in terms of how she's utilizes her versatility from rebounding to facilitating to scoring to playing defense. So there's a lot of good characteristics that AT is as a basketball player.
It was cool to see Angel and Alyssa against each other last night because there are a lot of similarities in their game. But Steven, I know you have some strong feelings about this one. So, what led to this question from you, and what did you think about what Tyler Marsh had to say?
Yeah, we talked about on this show in particular in the preseason, Angel initiating offense more and the reasons why I feel like that's effective. Last night, you can look at the game flow for the Sky. Where they saw some struggles was when Monica Cole-McConaughey was picking up Courtney Vandersloot full court, and that's stagnating their offense to where she's making Courtney turn 2-3 times. That's ticking away at the shot clock. And all the Mercury are looking to do with this extended pressure is to shrink the amount of time on the shot clock that the Sky have to get into their offense. It's limiting the options you can cycle through. And for a defense, you can defend the first action extremely well, but where the best offenses kind of trump a good defense is when they can get into a second and tertiary option and force a defense to defend multiple actions. So naturally, the counterpunch is you extend your pickup points, you shrink the shot clock, and you don't give them as much time to create advantage. You defend the first action well. I'm imagining Courtney Vandersloot comes down court after being pressed yesterday. They try to get into like a double drag or double screen action. By the time they get across the half court line, there's 16 seconds left. By the time Vandersloot clears the second screen, in the first action that they're trying to run, there's like 9 seconds left. And how much time does that leave you to create an advantage if the defense hasn't already had to shift? And needless to say, they didn't have to shift on this play that I'm thinking about. And now the Sky are working up against a shot clock. I think it either ends up in a shot clock violation or they get a shot that they don't want to take from a player that they don't want taking it with like 1 second left, which is a win for the defense. And Angel being a counterpunch to that, if she's initiating, most teams are not going to have their fours extended to pick her up full court because that's going to alter their defensive shell. So Angel's bringing it up the court. She has no pressure. They're able to get into whatever actions they want to get into with 20 seconds left, 21 seconds on the shot clock. How much time that allows for them to cycle through multiple, if they want to get into movement actions and things like that, they don't have to do it in a rushed manner. And that helps with their general game flow. And when Angel's able to be in those positions similar to Alyssa Thomas, we've seen the efficiency of the Sky offense be there.
Yeah, I mean, do you think the Mercury can be kind of a blueprint for the Sky in that respect?
I think so, but I think past just the Mercury, I think that Tyler can find a lot with Angel and usages similar to where Asia was last season and obviously in seasons that he spent with the Las Vegas Aces. She's not the same. She's more akin to the Alyssa Thomas style than the Asia Wilson style of power forward. But I think there's some hybrid dynamics that she can kind of combine from both of those two players' archetypes to make a player that's unique into her own. And I think that it's going to take some continued experimenting combined with her skill development and just her general feel for the game, making a decision with the ball in her hands more often, that's going to kind of help to take her to that stratosphere that I'm speaking to, where she can be a hybrid of both types while also bringing that same type of impact and intensity to the defensive end of the floor.
Fingers crossed. I would love to see Angel develop into an Alyssa Thomas, Alyssa Thomas, Asia Wilson hybrid. Anytime you mention those players' names, you know that you're in a good spot. Before we get out of here, any parting thoughts for the fine folks?
Yeah, I'm going to say breathe. And that's for the non-basketball conversations taking place. That's for the actual basketball conversations taking place. Just breathe. I don't feel like you saw any panic from the Sky players in any of the press conferences that they've had so far this season. And that's for a reason. Obviously, they're moving with urgency, but to panic it's entirely too soon in the season. So my suggestion is to just take a moment to breathe and pay attention to how they're working to try to adjust things, because they're not just coming with the same approach and essentially putting their heads up against the wall, expecting for the wall to shift. They're trying to alter the ways in which they're going about their game-by-game process. And I think that as they continue to experiment, it's going to highlight the lessons that they learn from the losses that they've taken earlier in the season. And if they can parlay the lessons learned into wins, that's where the sustainability comes from.
I think that breathe was directed at not only the people watching, but at me, and I will take it. Even though I fall on the other side of that, obviously we've been speaking a lot about how we're on opposite sides of the panic button on this one. I will say that I really continue to be impressed with how the players are speaking in their post-game press conferences. Something I tweeted out last night was that Ariel and Angel ended their post-game press conference both saying, like, we are still hungry for a win. And Angel even said, like, we believe in each other, and that's the most important part. So, yeah, even though I have a lot of strong feelings about how things are going, at the end of the day, the players are not panicking. And, you know, maybe that's something that we can all take solace in. For sure, that's something that I am happy to hear and see every time that they speak about it. So hopefully clear skies ahead. But thank you to everybody who watched. Hit the like button. It's a free way to support us. Hit the subscribe button, all of those good things. And we will be with you guys again next week.
We all silly like the mayor.